Now it's on? Whoa. Hello, how do you like me now? Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience. I realize putting something together, I know, and my husband knows more than anybody, how much work it is to put things together. I appreciate you showing up. And today, November 30th, 2023, is the 80th anniversary today that the first time McIntyre powder was used at McIntyre Mine in Schumacher, Ontario, Timmins, where it was invented. And I knew that this anniversary was coming up, and I just thought I can't let it go by and not have a time where we gather together and mark that time. And it's a two-part agenda this morning. So part one, we're running a little bit behind, but we'll go for about 45 minutes. I'm going to be talking about the McIntyre Powder anniversary, and I just wanted you to be seen. I found out about McIntyre powder from my dad in 2011. He was exposed to it in 1978, 79, and that was the first time that he really talked about it to our family. And there are many other miners' daughters and sons that I've talked to that said the same thing, and wives, and said, we didn't know. And others were aware, and they were complaining about it. And it was really important to me to not let this day go by and not let you know that you are thought of, that you are seen, that you are remembered for those who have passed, and to just have it known in the world that this happened to you. So we're going to be doing a little bit of remembering and trying to not have me talk as much and focus on the workers who were affected by this and their families. The second part, from approximately 10 to 11:30, we'll have about a 10-15 minute break in between, is going to be a presentation that I've been doing in 2023 throughout mining communities in Northern Ontario as much as I could get to them. I would take my vacation time. We drove up, my husband, long suffering, has at the back here, Don Martel's been wonderful to support this. And we went up in April, the end of April 28th. I was up in Elliott Lake presenting it for the first time. And then we went up to Virginia Town, to Kirkland Lake and Timmins in May for a run of a week. And then in September, I packed up my RAV4 and drove to 17 hours one way to Red Lake. I think I'm crazy. I don't know that you should be alone on a highway going to Red Lake, but I did it. And I'm so glad I did, because the community there was absolutely welcoming and wonderful. So it was important to me. What I found, even though I've been talking to mine workers about this since 2014, I went public with it in 2015 with the McIntyre Powder Project. But what I found was, even still after that many years, I have people saying, well, I didn't work at McIntyre Mine. And I thought, no, it's called McIntyre Powder because it was invented at McIntyre Mine, and they named it after themselves, basically. But this was used in all of the gold mines in Timmins that were open and running during the time that McIntyre powder was used, from 1943 to 1979. It was used in the Red Lake mining camps. It was used up in the Geraldton area, Pickle Crow mine, McLeod Cockshed, in Kirkland Lake in areas, and of course in the Elliott Lake uranium mines where my dad was exposed. And a lot of people just didn't, I've done a lot of research on this and talked to a lot of people to try and gather this information. And I think it's really important that that people are aware of the information, and so that they can make informed choices, so that they're aware that even if your loved one who was exposed to this has died, you can still make a compensation claim on behalf of the estate. That there may still be survivor benefits available to you, to the spouses of the workers or dependent children. So I just wanted to get out and do sort of a back to basics and let people know about that. So that's what we'll be talking about at that point. Things to know, this session is being recorded, video recorded. There are people across Canada, around the world, who were exposed to this. This was used in in the United States, in I think 13 different states in the United States, in dozens and dozens of companies where they're non-mining, a few mines, but mostly in industries that were silica dust producing, because the whole point of McIntyre powder was it was supposed to prevent the lung disease silicosis, which it did not, and it caused health issues itself. So this will be recorded. It will be posted later when it's available, the video on YouTube, and I'll, if anyone's on Facebook, my McIntyre Powder Project Facebook page, I'll post that link, and you can share it with people and talk about this. We have information tables along the sides here. Please help yourself. There's bags. You can fill that bags with information. There's a memorial album here for any McIntyre Powder-exposed mine worker. So there's miners, there's electricians, millwrights, cage tenders, muckers, slushers, all you guys know the terms. You know, people who have passed, you can add photos, you can add memories. This is my mom, Elaine Hobbs, and my sister Charlene, and I'm so grateful. Don't be sorry, Mom, you traveled here early to get here. I'm so glad you made it. That's important to me. It's, I'll tell you, you go out to a lot of these mining communities, and there's people I've met through this, and sometimes I've only met them through emails or phone calls, and you know, I got to meet a few of them here today that came out, that we've helped their families, and you know, some of them are getting survivor benefits for life because of this, and not just McIntyre powder, but all of the other mining exposures that people have in the mines, and the dangers of that. So anyways, there's information over here. Please help yourself. I brought reusable bags that have McIntyre Powder Project on it. If you have family members, you want to take one for them and bring that information. There's a photo banner project that we did. And the 3 photo collages that we have are on this jumbo postcard. You will need reading glasses or a magnifying glass or something to see this, but it's a way of having all of these guys together. So you're welcome to take some back if you have family members or whatever. Take this information. It's less for me to haul back, and we do this for you. At the back, my sister Linda Demers is back there with miners' coveralls. Any mine worker, there's these miners' coveralls I bought back in 2018, and it's for any mine worker, whether they were exposed to McIntyre powder or not, who is living with an occupational disease. They can sign their name. That could be noise-induced hearing loss. That could be hand-arm vibration syndrome. My guys know it as white hand, or Raynaud's. You know, bladder cancer, kidney cancer, lung cancer, COPD, all the kinds of occupational diseases that you can get from working in dirty environments. And you can sign that if you are the next of kin of a deceased mine worker who had an occupational disease. You can sign their name as well. Those coveralls have been to Red Lake. They've been around in Timmins and Elliott Lake, and you'll see some of your mining buddies on there, I'm sure. We are in this hall today, and it's at no charge to us, and that allowed me to pay for a videographer to come in here and film this for people who aren't here, so I'm very grateful. The United Steelworkers Local 6500 have been involved from way back. I think 2015 is when I first approached JP Marachuk here, and they've been extremely supportive of everything that we've done. And Nick Larochelle is the USW 6500 local president, and I would like to invite him up to say a few words. As many words as you would like, Nick, because you're wheeling up here.
Thank you, Janice. Welcome everybody today to 66 Brady Street. I just want to say a few words about Janice and the amazing work that she's been doing. It was something that she found out about and she never gave up on. And since 2015, in the beginning, It was pretty scarce participation, and it's awesome to see everyone here today. So thank you everyone for coming here today. Janice, your resilience is showing through the stuff that you have for us to look at, and the information that you're going to share today is going to be very helpful to spread the word. We're going across the province, and I just learned this morning that you're into the United States too. So thank you for your tenacity and continuing on with this project. Great work, and I'm going to share some personal stories. So thank you very much for that, Janice. Well, before I start, I'll share a personal story. I worked at Kidd Creek Mine in Timmins, and I started in 1985. And at that time, when I got hired on, I had to do a lung function test and a lung x-ray. And I was on a mining registry. And in and about 1988 or 1989, they stopped that registry. And they realized at that time the information they were collecting was detrimental to the Workers' Compensation Board. So in 1985, I was 20 years old. I'm in the doctor's office. I'm blowing into the lung function test, getting a lung x-ray, and those files are still at my doctor's, thankfully. But the government did nothing to uphold that. So we're working hard to get that back, that mining registry back. Makes a huge difference, and it takes a lot of work. A couple other things that I'll share with you. My personal experience, I worked with my father at that Kidd Creek Mine in Timmins. And he retired, and he passed away of lung cancer in 2015. And about 2017 or 2018, through Local 6500, and with the information that Janice had put together, Selena's our WSIB rep, we put in a WSIB claim on behalf of my father for the family. And the information that was required, Janice had it all laid out, and Selena put that application in, and we got a non-economic loss check, and my mother has a survivor's pension. So back in those days, Kidd Creek had a DC pension plan, so you contributed and you were at the mercy of the market. And that pension plan that he had run out. And my mom didn't really have much of a pension. This has made a significant difference to the quality of life for my mom with the sacrifice that my father made. He worked at the McIntyre Mine. He was only there for 1 year, but he did get sprayed with McIntyre powder while he was at the McIntyre Mine. We worked together, we were on the same shift. He had a different exposure than I did. He was a crusherman, so he was in dust, and he was a skip tender, so he was down at the bottom of the shaft in the dust all day. I personally have different exposures. I have hearing loss, and I have halves. So this work that Janice, OCAL, WSIB representatives at the local unions, I see Malcolm's here. We have Workers' Health and Safety Center, the training that's provided. Something that people might not know is Local 6500 has been the labor chair of the Mining Legislative Review Committee. That's a minister's committee to work on Regulation 854, which are the mining regulations in Ontario. And one of the action items they worked on for several years with Malcolm as the Labour co-chair was to reduce diesel emissions from 400 micrograms per meter down to 120. And it took a long fight, 2-year fight. It took campaigning to the minister, and that came through. And now in the province of Ontario, the diesel particulate project, or the diesel particulate level has been reduced to 120, and we're not stopping there. We're going to drive it down to 20. I don't know if I'm stealing your discussion later today. But So that's the kind of things, you know, Janice spearheaded the McIntyre Powder Project. That made people think about diesel particulate in the mines. So we got the regulations changed. Now Local 6500 is working with Crosh. Dr. Dorman's here today to get awareness on the diesel particulate project. So we have a lot of people working together to bring this information forward, to be successful for the people that do get chronic illness. In particular today, if you were sprayed with McIntyre powder at any time, it doesn't matter the length of your service. If you got sprayed once and you know you got sprayed once, come and see Janice, and she'll help you through the process and get the information to the WSIB. There are some, when I grew up in Timmins, my best friend's father was a hoistman at Dome Mine, and he got sprayed with McIntyre Powder Project, but he didn't, McIntyre Powder, but he didn't contract lung disease or COPD. So it's very important when you go for the death certificate, the death certificate is the key for acceptance or decline. So have a chat with Janice. Make sure you have that information. You're not going to change what the doctor writes on the death certificate, but it is super important that if the person is still alive, that you talk to Janice and make sure that you understand you know, one exposure is enough to be the cause of lung cancer. So I don't want to take up too much more time. It's great to see everyone here today, and please do everything you can to spread the word. That's what this is about. We're here today to bring Janice's word as far as we can through all of the avenues. We have Crosh, we have the Workers' Health and Safety Center, we have Local 6500. I see someone from Sudbury District Labour Council, so that's good. We have a lot of people here that can spread the word. So please feel free to come up when Janice calls you to come up and have a few words. So thank you, and welcome to 66 Brady Street.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to go sign the coveralls.
Okay. Nick just said he's going to go sign the coveralls, and that means a lot to me. And I have lost, oh, here it is. One of the best $60 I've ever spent is on this remote control for this. Thank you very much, Nick. I really was hoping that you would speak from your heart and talk about, you know, your own family and stuff like that, and you did that. The medical certificate of death that you're talking about, I have those application forms. Unfortunately, I've got nice little signs for everything else, so they're, the two things that don't have signs on them are the WSIB Form 6, that's we'll be talking about that in Part 2, is about making a compensation claim. That's the form you need to do that. And there's a medical certificate of death application. It's different than a death certificate, so when you go to the Office of the Registrar General for birth certificates and death certificates, it's a medical certificate. It's a long form, and it has causes of death on it. And sometimes that's the only medical records that we have, so we'll talk about that later. So today is the 80th anniversary of the first time McIntyre powder was used at McIntyre Mine in Schumacher. But it's also the 1-year anniversary today of the historic apology, the apology from Ontario to McIntyre Powder-exposed mine workers and their families. I can tell you that was not an easy road to get that apology, and Jamie West, our local Sudbury member of provincial parliament, he was instrumental in working with me and with the government to try and get that apology, as well as Franz Jelena, the Nickel Belt member of provincial parliament here. So I just wanted to share a few photos from that time. And you're going to see in these photos, you're going to see some quotes from mine workers and mining families that are kind of jarring, but when you look at the pictures and we're all smiling and you see these quotes from mine workers who went through hell. I wanted to put that together so you could hear some of the stories that I've been hearing for the last 8-9 years now. This is France and Jamie at a USW event here that we had here. I believe it was for Labor Day. And that poster, the who gives them the right to spin the barrel of the gun on me, I have some up here. If anyone wants to take them, they're free for the taking. So they're in this box up here next to the bags. So feel free to take some. So I spoke with Jamie West about this in January, I think it was, of 2021, but we were in the middle of the pandemic and the Queen's Park Public Gallery was closed. And it was important to me that we get an apology for these mine workers because it feels like I'm losing them, that we're losing them, faster than I can get answers to them. So I approached him about them, but at that time we thought, no, I want the option of them to be there in person to be able to hear this apology. So it was kind of sat on the shelf for a little bit, and then in 2022, starting in February 2022, we thought, no, we're gonna do this. They had reopened the public gallery, and we started a petition to petition the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. So we weren't asking the government for an apology, we were asking full Ontario for an apology. McIntyre powder was used, as I've said, around the world in 200 worksites globally, over 200 worksites globally. But Ontario had the largest cohort of miners. There was 27,500 in Ontario. And I've tried to find out, how many were, there was 2,000 in Mexico, there was just under 5,000 in Western Australia gold mines that were exposed. And the other parts of Canada, BC used this, Quebec, tons of, especially in the Val d'Or region, used this in their mines. And I've tried to get numbers, and in the States, there was one statistic in 1946 with the McIntyre Research Foundation. Well, it was somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 at that point. And that was just when they just started it. They just started it in 1943. And by 46, 5,000 to 10,000. And I thought, if you don't know that how many of your people are being exposed to this, what is wrong with you? Like, if you don't know that there's 7,632 miners exposed or factory workers exposed, there's something wrong with you. This was indiscriminately used. So Jamie stood up time after time in the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, and he asked for an apology, and he would bring in the petitions that people signed. Up here was at the South Porcupine Mall. And we went there and people showed up and signed the petition, and there was one gentleman that came, he was holding onto a shopping cart for dear life because he was so unsteady on his feet, and he walked past, he looked over at the McIntyre Powder Project tablecloth that we had there, and he let go of that and he walked over. I thought he was going to fall, and because it was so important for him to sign that petition. And I really appreciate that that went around to people all over. There was somebody from California who signed it because their dad was exposed. And we went down on April 28th, which is the International Day of Mourning for workers who either died on the job or died of occupational disease. And we went down on April 28th of 2022. There was 8 of us. That's us meeting with France Jelena. Jamie wasn't able to be there because of a family funeral. So France picked up the ball and went in and asked for that apology. And that apology was not given at that time, but our presence there was very important. That's Terry Byberg at the front. He is a McIntyre Powder-exposed mine worker. And his wife behind him was there, my daughter Jessica, my brother Jim, Linda Lundstrom, whose father was exposed, and then Myrna and her father, Myrna is she's a professor looking at labor issues and stuff like that, and she just wanted to come to support.
Where did you say that was, that last picture? Where were you?
We were at Queen's Park at the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, so we were in there in the public gallery asking for that petition. And Linda Lundstrom, she comes from Red Lake, Ontario, and she, I don't know, some of the women, especially in the audience, may know of her. She is very famous for her clothing. She, especially her coats, she had a La Parka. She was a Finlander, and She is at the back she's got gold
Okay.
across there. So she's a very famous fashion designer, and her dad was exposed to this in Red Lake, and he also had Parkinson's, and he also had lung disease. And this was important to her, and she wanted to come and support it. And she told us all, okay, we need to coordinate our fashion when we go. We need to show a look of solidarity. So we all wore white shirts, and black pants was basically the criteria. And this was us there again at Queen's Park. I could hear him coughing a block away. I hear that from a lot of the families of mine workers. And for those who could not come to Queen's Park, we did a photo banner project last year. I just thought there's a lot of people who just cannot travel, and or too ill to travel or have been deceased. So we put out a shout out to people and say, hey, if you were exposed to McIntyre Powder, you want to share a photo, and this is what we got for the first one. And then that wasn't enough. We did a second one. Because there was more people coming out of the woodworks just saying, no, I when they found out about it, I want to be part of this. And I want to say a lot of people are very supportive of this project. They're supportive of my work. They ask a lot for what they can do. The biggest thing that you can do is to talk to other people about this. If there are mining families that you know, my guys are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and most of them are not on Facebook. They're not on technology. They don't have email addresses, but their kids do. Their grandkids do. And if your family member was worked in a mine, please share some of this stuff with them. I'm hoping that the YouTube videos and stuff of when this eventually comes out, that people will be able to see that. This quote really got me too. This is, and I've heard several people talk about, we went and saw, I had surgery, and the doctor came out and said, the surgeons came out and said, those are the blackest lungs I've ever seen. And many people have told me that. This was, this photo was taken here at the Steelworkers Hall in the lobby. So in 2023, after we got rejected in April, I talked to Jamie West again and Franz Jelena, and we said we need to bring this back to Queen's Park, because at that time, the actual day, April 28th, was the last day that the legislature sit. They rose, and then we had an election, but we were promised, we didn't have enough time from the government side saying that we didn't have enough time to prepare for this, and we want to offer a good apology. We promised that we were going to do that. So we said, okay, let's do it. So we picked this day. We picked the November 30th because it was the significant anniversary at that time of the first time McIntyre powder had been used at the mine where it was invented. And we started asking, and we didn't get that answer. I found out 6 days before. But prior to the 6 days before, I asked Jamie, I said, if they refuse this, can you still bring up the question, even if they say no? He said, yes. I said, okay, then I'm coming. And I told my husband, I said, look, I said, I'm going to call and find out how much a bus is to go. Because they said, I want to have bus people down there, and it shouldn't be on them to get there on their own. I said, if it's under $3,000, I'm going to do it. So it was $2,900 and something. So I did it. I paid it on my visa. And then Jamie West said, look, his dad was a mine mill member. He said they would want to support this. And then, so I wrote to the steelworkers in the mine mill, and they paid they covered the cost of the bus and then some. And the then some I've used to do this kind of work, so for a donation. So USW Local 6500 contributed, USW Local 2020 contributed, USW District 6 contributed, and mine mill, Sudbury Mine Mill Smelter Workers, Local 598, Unifor. Nailed it. That's a long name. These are the 6 mine workers who were able to join us last year. Ken Brzezinski, who's right here with his wife, Luann, and Max Pluth, who was going to come here today, but unfortunately he's got a bad cold, so he's not able to join us. Robert Olmsted, Bob Olmsted, who worked cross shift with my dad, who's here. There he is, he moved. Sneaky. Gary Zarichny, from Spanish, and Spanish Welford, and Roger Janot, who is here with his wife Dorothy. Where are you, Roger? There you are. And Ron Tuff. Ron Tuff only worked for a couple of years in mining. And when we were going down on the bus, I said, "Is there anybody here who can sing?" And I gave everybody little duotangs, and we had Rita McNeil's "It's a Working Man I Am" and Sudbury, "Damn Good Song for a Miner," and we started singing. And he's an actual accomplished actor and singer. And I said, "Okay, we're gonna try and stand up in the legislature and do this." So we did. After the apology, he stood up and he sang the chorus of "It's a Working Man I Am." And the Speaker of the House waved off the Sergeant of Arms, because you're not allowed to do any of that. You're not allowed to bring cell phones. All of your stuff has to stay outside of the legislature. But he stood up and sang that, and the Speaker was the first one to stand up and give him a standing ovation. So it was a pretty special moment. And this is them with former Minister of Labor. That's another. I'm just going to call him the Minister of Labor, Immigration, Training and Skills Development, Monty McNaughton. Him and his staff worked with Jamie West to make this apology happen. Jamie West is on the far side. And that's Ron Tuff there, who did the singing. I had 6 kids and I had to work for them to survive. I heard somebody else say I had 6 around the table and you got to keep on trucking. And he said he had only missed 2 weeks of work in his life. 2 weeks of work in his life, and he had a severe bronchial infection, and he just got up after 2 weeks and went back to work. So that's us at Queen's Park. There was a couple of steelworker members that were able to come down. Jerry Thibault's here, and Sean Stadden, who was unable to be here with us today. It was really meaningful, and those banners, there was one family from up in Timmins, and we were emailing back and forth, and she had sent her the photo from her family member who had been exposed to McIntyre powder, and she said, "Good luck at Queen's Park, our hearts travel with you." And I thought, I'm putting that on the banner, and I asked her, and she said, "Yeah." And the next thing you know, they were on the bus too. They drove down from Timmins. Her and her parents came down on the bus. So today, this is McIntyre powder being blown into McIntyre Mine in 1944. It was the only picture that I've seen, other than in North Kalgoorlie Mine in Western Australia, of McIntyre powder being blown. For those of you who have watched the CBC Fifth Estate Powder Keg, or they did 2 follow-up episodes. They filmed that in 1979, which really led to the stopping of McIntyre powder. But they filmed that in 1979, and they were refused to allow them to see McIntyre powder being blown. So the photos from the photo banner, we're going to be running a little slideshow of them. But when we were doing the second call out for photos for the photo banners that are going to be revealed today, I heard from Louisa Howerow, and she is the daughter of Yuri Howerow. Yuri was born in 1924. He died in 2012, so he didn't know anything about the McIntyre powder at the time of his death. But Louisa and her mom were still alive, and when they found out about the McIntyre Powder Project, her dad had Parkinson's as well. And she talked about it with her mom, and this is what she said through discussions with his wife at the time. He did speak of being subjected to the powder, of not wanting it as it seemed not right, but told not to refuse, the implication being that he would lose his job. Since he was brought over under the UN refugee-sponsored program, and he had to show a good work ethic for at least the first 2 years, there was no choice but to comply. I spoke to Louisa. When we were doing this, she sent me 2 poems that she had written that were published about McIntyre powder. I didn't even know anything about this. And I asked her if I could read one of them today, and I'm about to read that. And I spoke with her last night to ask if it was okay to share this information about her dad. They registered with me. They were the 300 and 93rd person to register with the McIntyre Powder Project. They registered back in 2017, June 5th, 2017. And I spoke with Louisa last night on the phone and just asked her if it was okay to share this information about her dad. She said, you put it wherever you want, you put it on your website, you put it wherever. She said at the time that they registered with the McIntyre Powder Project, Yuri's wife was still alive, but he's since passed. But they decided at the time of registration, this was the quote, and she literally could have ripped this quote from my throat, because this is exactly how I feel, and it's exactly how a lot of our people feel. Even if nothing happens from it, we want a record that has his name on it, that this happened, so people won't forget. That's why I do this work. Louisa's poem was it was published in Grain, the Journal of Eclectic Writing, Portraits edition, back in 2019, volume 46, issue 3. It's called In the Mind's Change House. The first time seeing it, swirling so fine, a man might mistake the powder for a cloud, alighting on hair, eyelids, settling into the crevices of his skin, entering his open mouth, except it was black and there was no fresh air. The metallic taste still on his tongue, he told his wife how they had filed into the dry, street clothes off, the usual. But this time, the door locked, a warning given not to place hands on mouth and nose. She knew what it was to be caught, knew there was nothing to say or do. She heard him retching into the toilet, the clank of bottles. She had a lunch box to wash out and pack. He had a shift tomorrow, a cage waiting to send him down the shaft. I asked Louisa if she would like to be here to read this herself, and unfortunately she cannot. She's supporting a family member who is gravely ill. But I thank Louisa for her words and for her passion for providing that to us. So, as I said, I want this to be about you, the mine workers who were exposed to this. I want it to be about their families and remembering. And so the mine workers of today and any worker is going to get the acknowledgement that these guys didn't get for years and decades. When I first found out about this, I was absolutely horrified that this happened to anyone, especially Dad, because he worked so hard for us. And I was appalled to know that these guys were just dropped. The Fifth Estate filmed that in '79, and they stopped using it. They commissioned a senior scientific review, and they stopped it, but then they didn't follow up with these guys. There was one study done in Ontario, one, and a mini follow-up study that was, and it showed cognitive deficits. It was RFAT in 1991. It showed cognitive deficits in the mine workers who had the aluminum dust over the mine workers who didn't have the aluminum dust. And that was it. When I first started looking at this, I did a WSAB claim for Dad in 2011. And I looked at McIntyre powder on the internet, and there were two references, two. One was the RFAT study from '91, and one was praising the mine doctor at the Mining Hall of Fame for curing silicosis by bringing in McIntyre powder. That was it. And I spoke to John Perquin from the USW International about this, and he said, you need to look up McIntyre Research Foundation. And I spoke to him about 2014 when we withdrew my dad's claim at that point because there was no winning. They had a policy that automatically shut down any neurological claims related to occupational aluminum exposure. So when I spoke to him, he said, no, you need to look up McIntyre Research Foundation, which is what the mining executives who brought this in became. They were the board of directors basically for it, and a couple of industry doctors. And when I looked that up, there was a hit at the Archives of Ontario, so I went down there and did a lot of research. And that research, I've created a website, I'm not technically inclined, technologically inclined, but it's got information, good information on there. It's not jazzy, but there's information because I thought I don't want this to fade. And I wanted to collect these photos for the photo banner that we're going to be showing after this slideshow. There are 223 photos of mine workers on that photo banner. So I said that if people had the mugshot photos where you went to go underground and you had like a letter and some numbers, it'd be like, if you work in Timmins mines, it'd be T-0123, basically. And they look like mugshots. So I said, if you have a mugshot picture, the miner certificate photo, you can send that in, plus one other picture, but otherwise it was one picture per worker. So I received 223 photos on this banner, and it represents 197 McIntyre Powder-exposed miners and mine workers. The slideshow has 200. There's 197. There was 3 that are not on the banner who, through no fault of their own, just didn't get it to me in time for the banner to be on, but it was really important to the families. I've added it on, and hopefully I'll keep adding on to that slideshow. So the slideshow has 200 McIntyre Powder-exposed miners, and each of those pictures are going to flash up for 3 seconds. 3 seconds. So 3 seconds for each worker. There's going to be a 10-minute run time for these 200 workers. At 20 per minute, that's 1,200 per hour. Those 200 McIntyre Powder-exposed mine workers represent 0.7% of the 27,500 mine workers who are exposed to McIntyre powder just in Ontario. This is the largest cohort of them. This is the largest grouping of them. If we had one photo for every Ontario, just the Ontario mine workers who were exposed to it, each of those 27,500 workers, and we put it on that slideshow at 3 seconds each, and show each of their faces one by one on this slideshow, it would take us 23 hours to watch all of them, all 27,500 of them. Every 3 seconds, one more guy, one more guy, one more guy. I wanted to set that tone as you're watching this, because these guys represent 99.3% of the people who were exposed to this in Ontario are not on that banner. Their photos are not there. I appreciate every one of you who stood up for, you have no idea. Nothing would have happened if it was just me talking about it. Nothing would have happened. So we're going to watch the slideshow together, and we're going to remember. Some of those, just to let you know, some of the workers that are on here are deceased. Some of them are alive. Some of them are sitting in this room with you. There are fathers and sons. There are brothers. And they're my guys and our guys. hard to sit in silence for 10 minutes. Sometimes when we have a moment of silence, you start to feel uncomfortable, you start to get in your own head. But you sat there with me watching. These are 0.7% of the faces and the people and the names who were exposed just in Ontario. It's unbelievable. If you are a McIntyre Powder-exposed mine worker and you are here today, I would invite you, if you would like to come to the front and unveil the banner, the photo banner of miners and mine workers who were exposed to McIntyre powder on the 80th anniversary of the first time of its use at McIntyre Mine where it was invented. Please join me at the front. This is a 12-foot wide banner, so you guys know what you're doing. Get in line.
Can I assist even though I'm not in the photo?
Pardon me?
Can I assist them, so even though I'm not in the banner?
Are you a McIntyre Powder-exposed mine worker?
Definitely,
Then
yes.
get up here. I don't care who's, you don't have to be on the banner. Okay,
I came in late. How do you know if you are?
where did you work?
McIntyre, 78, 79.
Underground? Get up there. If you're okay with it, I'm going to ask you to introduce your name as we go along, and then I'm going to get you to...
Rick Lagaki.
Ken Brzezinski.
Bob McLean. Bob Olmsted.
He worked cross-shift with my dad. He was one of my dad's supervisors.
Albert Fergie. Brian Barton. Roger Janot. Manuel Labels. Eve Labels.
Thank you. We might want to move down just a touch this way. All right. You're gonna be... Do you want me to put your glasses down?
Sure, I got it.
Okay. They did pretty good figuring out what 12 feet was. So if we can get sort of in a straight line to get that a good shot of it there. There you go. I know it's not something to clap about, but if we can just acknowledge that these Could somebody from my family please take a picture of this? Okay. Thank you. Okay. I don't want to put anybody on the spot if you don't want to say anything, but people have been hearing me talk about this for years. And if you would like to talk about it, because I don't know that in 20 years from now we're going to have too many people here for the 100th. I don't know if I'll be here for the 100th. I'm getting old these days. So I want you to, if you'd like to say something, what it was like, whatever, and you don't have to if you don't want to. We'll go along. Okay.
I'd just like to acknowledge, like everybody else, all the work that Janice done. I keep calling her my little angel for all these people from the McIntyre Powder Project. She's done one hell of a job, and thank you. And I'll be proud of you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Janice. I've been following your work, so sorry about that. Of course, my lungs aren't what they used to be. So it's, personally, I've been starting to breathe this McIntyre powder way back in Kirk Lake, Virginia town. And finally, Rio and Dennis and Elliot Lake. So these are the results of today, but I thank the good Lord because I'm 77 and I'm still on the right side of the grass. So anyways, keep up the good work. I know you're working very hard for those that are gone, you know, because of this pulmonary disease, and but it's the families that remain, and also the the workers that are sitting here today. And I saw lots of familiar faces on that banner, you know, and it really touches my heart. Thank you very much, Dennis. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice, again, Rob says, and we appreciate that. You know what it means to us. I was diagnosed with cancer, lung cancer, and it's an ongoing battle. Today I'm here. Today I'm here, but you never know. But we appreciate everything. Thank you again.
I'd like to put a different side to this story into my father worked at the Cornero in Timmins in 1943, and when he volunteered to go in the Army, he was sent to Camp Borden, and they refused him. And the reason they refused him is because he had black lungs, and it was from the powder. So he always said, McIntyre Powder saved my life. Quite the opposite to what it is today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Janice, for spearheading this endeavor. I never really thought about it until a few years ago. I lost my father, and his friends all passed away. I was first exposed in '74, and never thought I had an issue until I underwent extensive pre-medical for Falconbridge in '96, and they determined I had a problem with my lungs. So, being the person I am, I waited until my probation was over, and I thought, if I got cancer, you guys are going to look after me. And to this day, I'm still alive, doing well. But I should have been involved with you when it first came out, but I didn't think it was going to affect me, and I didn't realize how many people were affected. But God rest the souls that are with us.
And Ryan, my name is Roger Janot. I come from Spanish, and I work in Night Lake for Real Mines, along with my dad also, Ryan. A few of these guys down here went to school together, up in Blind River back in the day. We're still here, thank God. I did my time in Night Lake, and I got the hell out of it. The reason I got out of it, because my dad said, Roger, you're going to go there, you're going to get a job, you're going to do your term, get your electrical ticket, 4 years, get out. He knew that the mines were no good for you. He was spitting up powder. He was spitting up stuff like you would know. And I seen it. My wife and I seen it. My wife's here also. We seen it, we got out of it. Thank God. I still worked in the mining sector till I retired, but there's so much bad stuff in the mining. I don't know what to say to the younger folks that are out there. I hope, Janice, what you're doing is helping all the younger people that are out there, because all the old guys are gone. They're gone. They died for us. We're the living survivors of what's happened so far, but it's a younger group that, Janet, you're going to fight for it. Us old guys, we're going to do our time. We're going to get the hell out of here sooner or later. Anyways, thanks for listening to us. Bye now.
Thanks, Janet, for forwarding us all the information. We're Parkinson. We both work at the mine.
I will help you. It's almost an automatic. You see me after you. My card is here.
Okay.
I was diagnosed with Parkinson 9 years ago. So now I was 6 before you can get compensation for the disease.
You come. see me, I will help you. Thanks. I am one of the family members of somebody who's not here. And if I would now invite, if you all want to move forward a bit, if you are a family member of any of the McIntyre Powder-exposed mine workers, if you want to come behind and join, and we'll see how many people are left in the audience after that one.
He's the reason I got out of Dennis and hired me for CM.
You got to get up here so you can
This
see.
is my son Paul. That's my
You got to
daughter.
find a little place in there. Mom, you stand right up there. My love for Dad is what started this, and my mom's here to represent him. I just want to say thank you to everybody who did this. I should get the mic out of my way for this, but my mom, Elaine Hobbs, she was actually born the year that McIntyre powder started being used. So we're out here for the 80th anniversary, and we celebrated her 80th birthday this year. Mom, I just want to say thank you that after Dad died that you supported me in continuing to do this work. I know that you don't always, and my family members, I am one of 4 children, okay? I'm just one of 3 daughters and a son of my parents. My sister Linda's here. My sister Charlene is here. My brother works at EBID at the, I guess it's Domtar or whatever it is now, the mill in Espanola. Today's the day that they're doing their shutdown, so he couldn't be here with us. And my heart is also there. But, you know, my name is associated with Dad, but you don't always get to see my family members, and they don't get to see the people that I help. So I really appreciate people coming out today and showing that, and the slideshow of people, of the miners who are on the banner. I thank you. We'll fight for you. Don't be shy. The person who said I should have been involved with you from the beginning, I get that a lot. They're like, they're like apologetic that they didn't stand up in the beginning, or they didn't. And most of them will say, you know, I didn't think anything had ever come of this, and I understand that. The compensation system sucks. And, you know, but they're making changes, and they're making changes because of this. And if we all stand up together, it makes a difference. So I appreciate it. My mom has helped for some of the costs and stuff when I've gone up to Red Lake and that kind of thing as well. And it really, people really appreciate it, Mom.
Thank you.
They do.